You want some instant dodge, some instant class ability. There you go. I'm just going to replay the clips a couple of times just so you can see it in action. It's quite easy to do, to be honest. I'm going to show you a couple of like fragments and aspects that we need, and a certain couple of weapons that will really maximise this happening, how we can sort of get it back all the time. Not only that, I'm going to break down a build that we can take full advantage of our dodge, where we can get an instant dodge back, including one of my favourite exotics of all time. Stay tuned, I'm going to show you how to maximise this class ability. So if you want to see how to get the instant class ability back, it's just a combination of a couple of things that's quite easy to knock together. Whisper of Refraction, defeating slowed or frozen combatants grants you class ability, and running Dustfield Grenade because that has an area of effect where you can sort of freeze quite a few enemies at a time or slow them. So as long as you kill the enemies that are inside this Dustfield Grenade when they're frozen or slowed, you're going to get an absolute load of class ability energy back. Hence why we're getting the instant class ability back on how many kills we're getting, 4 or 5, 3 or 4, something like that, and you get like either instantly or most of it back. But what I've also done to enhance the regeneration, not only of my class ability, of everything that I'm doing, like all your melee, all your grenades, on your class ability, this wellspring perk is really good this season, especially the enhanced version on this grenade launcher for Forebearance. I crafted it last night, and this just enhances everything that we've just talked about and you've seen in the previous clips. So we're going to get loads of grenade energy back and melee energy back, and on top of that again you're going to get your dodge or class ability back whilst you're killing stuff with wellspring. And if you can kill stuff while they're frozen with wellspring, that's going to proc again the Whisper of Refraction. So it's all sort of stacking, working together perfectly. So it's just an added bonus if you like. Enhanced Wellspring gives you 10% divided rather than 7.5, that's a normal version. So enhanced again is a 10%. It's a really strong perk, it's really good, it's sort of subtly nice. And then what I've done, because obviously I'm a bit of a geek and I like builds, so that's sort of not enough for me to get the class ability back. I've also thought how I can sort of get the best out of this now in a build, and we're instantly going to get our class ability back. And the one thing that's always sort of stuck in my mind was the cooldown on Mask of Bakris. So I've got to put a little build together all around Mask of Bakris. Stay tuned, I'm going to show you the build. Just before I get into the full build and some more gameplay, I've got some more gameplay coming of these sort of things in action in the raid, and some general sort of play just to sort of show you how Mask of Bakris, we could take advantage of Mask of Bakris with this sort of setup. I'm just going to quickly talk about what Mask of Bakris actually does. So it replaces your Stasis subclass dodge ability with a longer range, faster moving shift that partially cloaks you during use. After shifting, your arc weapons deal increased damage to combatants for a short time. So that's a 10% damage buff to all your arc weapons whenever you dodge, and it comes up on the bottom left and it's called light shift. So a 10% damage buff to all your arc weapons. Obviously we've got quite a lot of arc weapons, it opens up a lot of different options that we can use. Obviously Forebearance that I'm using, that's just going to enhance that damage for the Forebearance. Heavies, we've got things like Grand Overture, Wardcliff Coil, Anarchy, Hothead, things like that. Plenty of different options we could sort of take advantage of with this build. And then also what Bakris does, it does an additional 10% to anything that's slowed or frozen. So that 10% is very handy, especially if you're using an arc weapon, because that's then therefore a 20% buff to your arc weapons if you're using an arc weapon and they're slowed. So that's sort of Bakris, and the reason why I thought of Mask of Bakris is because of this thingy that's quite an annoyance to players. Every time you dodge with Bakris, you get that light shift perk and you can't actually gain any class ability back at all until that light shift has gone. So as you can see there, I'm going to freeze, and it's just a way of combating this instant class back like that. So using them tricks that we're seeing, the Whisper of Refraction and the Wellspring, we're going to get the class ability back. So it's just basically a way of like combating the Bakris cooldown. In my eyes, I think it's quite a good little, good little thing we could do to sort of combat it. If you found this interesting, let me know in the comments. I'm going to show you some more gameplay now and how we can take full advantage of this build. So these are just examples. Now I've got half my class ability there, I've froze them, killed them with the Forebearance with wellspring on. It's procced everything that we've already seen, and that's now I've dodged to get my light shift. That's the backrest perk, extra 10% damage on my arc weapons. So it's quite handy, quite a useful little trick to do. I just replayed this clip because this is the sort of loop that we need to do all the time to sort of maximise your backrest perk, your extra 10% damage for your arc weapons. And then on top of that, if they're slowed, you get another 10% as well, so we can really get some solid DPS on our arc weapons. Again, I've switched to Bakris here, dodged, got my light shift, there's an extra 10% on your Wardcliff coil with it being arc. And then in a couple of the clips, what you'll see is me slowing enemies and dodging at the same time. That's activating 20% damage now, rather than 10, because you get 10% for arc weapons and 10% anything that's slowed. Things like Wardcliff coil and things like that, anything arc is really strong. So this clip here, what I do is I dodge to get the 10% arc weapon, and I throw my dust field so it's slowed, and that's another 10%. So it's a 20% damage buff rather than a 10. So it's absolutely crazy what you can do with this build. Counter the light shift with the setup and the fragments and everything and the wellspring. So we're countering the light shift sort of class ability that we're not able to get back with Bakris. You can pretty much get it instantly all the time. Dodge, slowed, boom. Don't really stand much chance anything arc. And then also for DPS, I was sort of struggling to find some of DPS, but I found this not to be too bad. Stuck a couple of anarchies with it being arc. I've dodged to get that extra 10%. I've slowed him, and then also what I'm doing is I'm running a Stasis primary, and I'm taking advantage of Forebearance with this build. So it's not a bad option. I'm not saying it's top tier DPS, but it is a solid option to use. You'll do decent damage. I think I hit like 2.1 mil on this clip here. 2 anarchies, 3 anarchies, dodge, slowed him, and I'm also using a Stasis primary with Focus Fury. So there's a lot to the build as well, more than just what you've seen. I'm going to show you a full setup how we can get absolutely crazy numbers with Bakris. I'm taking advantage of like Forebearance, Chargeable Light, High Energy Fire as well. So stay tuned, I've got the full build. So as usual, this is the last bit of the sort of video, the build. I'm going to leave a dim link so you don't have to listen to me. I'd just like to explain what's happening and what I'm doing. Aspects is Grim Harvest and Touch of Winter. I've run Grim Harvest to create loads of shards via my Dust Field Grenade. So whenever you freeze someone with your Dust Field Grenade or slow them and then you kill them, you're going to create loads of shards. The fragments are pretty much up to you. To be honest, you can sort of build around what you want as long as you have Whisper of Refraction on. That's going to enable you to get your instant class ability back when we're slowed and frozen, as we've already talked about. The rest you could sort of build around yourself. I really like this one, Whisper of Impetus, damaging targets with a stasis melee, reloads your stirred weapons. So it reloads everything that's stirred, really good perk. So Whisper of Refraction, Grim Harvest, Touch of Winter, Dustfield Grenade to create the shards. And then what I'm doing, them shards, I'm going to run this one, Elemental Shards. So all the shards that I create, via the aspects and fragments that we've just seen, that's going to turn them into elemental wells. And then what I'm doing is I'm running elemental charge, so all them shards that we're picking up, they're going to convert into charge with light, basically. So the shards are going to make you charge with light. I run charged up so we can get a maximum of 3 charge with light all the time, so we're going to be able to get 3 charge with light. And then what I do is I run high energy fire. So high energy fire, while you're charged with light, gain a bonus to weapon damage, which is 20%, so 20% damage buff, which also stacks with Mask of Bakris, so we're going to get a nice 30 to 40% damage buff all the time on our arc weapons, or anything that's slowed. It's a 30% damage buff. The other mod that I'm running is a Font of Might, because I run Stasis primary weapons, as you saw in the clips, so picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants a bonus to weapon damage of that same elemental type, and you can take advantage as a nice, it's sort of like a Brucey bonus, not just based around arc weapons. If you pick up an elemental shard, you're going to get a nice tasty 25% extra damage buff on your Stasis primaries. In this one I'm running Overflow, Focus Fury. It's like a truck with this build, because you get the Font of Might, which is 25%, and you're also getting High Energy Fire, which is 20%. That's an absolutely huge buff. They both stack together. High energy fire with Font of Might both stack together, so there's a 45% damage buff to your stasis primaries, and as one more little bonus, if they're slowed, you get an extra 10% damage as well. It doesn't have to be arc weapons. If they're slowed, you still get that extra 10% damage as long as they're slowed. So everything there all works and stacks together. The last sort of two that are quite useful is utility kickstart. When your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain a class ability energy back. So whenever you dodge with your Mask of Bakris and that light shift is activated, as soon as that light shift is gone, you're going to get a small amount back. I think it's like 10-15% back straight away. So again, that's just adding towards the cooldown of your Mask of Bakris. I hope the vid has been useful. I'll leave a dim link. Like I said, it was just a vid to maximise Bakris. There'll be plenty of other little builds we can do with it. I'll probably do a few more through the season with this setup. Like I said, I hope you found it useful. Take it easy.